Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alexander Siren, and today I will be presenting Coca-Cola, managing brands over geographic boundaries and market segments. So, a little background on Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola was first introduced on the 8th of May, 1886 in Columbus, Georgia, and was initially sold as a medicine to cure various ailments and illnesses. It was at this time that Coca-Cola was developing and became a moderate household name. However, it was the Prohibition era of the United States that quickly thrust Coca-Cola into becoming the company it is today. As back then, a ban on alcohol saw people finding alternatives in various other forms of beverage, Coca-Cola becoming very popular and dedicated bars actually showing up where they would serve just Coca-Cola. The modern day Coca-Cola is sold in over 200 companies, in over 200 countries, and interestingly is only not commercially available in two nations, North Korea and Cuba, but in both instances there is a gray market where Coca-Cola is sold in those nations. 1.8 billion Coca-Cola beverages are consumed daily, be it from various companies that fall under the Coca-Cola umbrella, some notable ones being Powerade, Fanta, Vitamin Water, etc. They all fall under the Coca-Cola umbrella. The Coca-Cola formula is still a trade secret, and their syrup is distributed to their various production plants all over the world, though ingredients and where they source these ingredients is closely monitored so that competitors cannot get access to the Coca-Cola trade secret formula and taste. It's available in almost every country, and the Coca-Cola company offers over 350 brands. Coca-Cola is now growing and is becoming a major player, is the leading player in the beverage industry globally. They span all over the world, available at fast food restaurants, supermarkets, convenience stores, wherever you go. Be it the Congo or be it Vienna, Austria, you are able to find Coca-Cola products. Of course, their best-selling beverage is the original Coca-Cola, where in their production plants all over the world, it is produced every hour of every day. In fact, the local Coca-Cola production plant near Parramatta in Sydney, the original Coca-Cola is literally produced every second of every day. That production line does not stop. Whereas with some of their other notable brands, so let's say the Diet Coke or the Coke Zeros, they have allotted production times. Original Coke is produced 24 hours a day. It is incredible, and given wherever you are in the world, somewhere, someone is consuming a Coca-Cola beverage. Partnerships with big chains like McDonald's, 7-Eleven has really helped Coca-Cola with that, and their distribution strategies have cemented their place as the large global beverage company that we know today. So, moving on to branding strategy. Coca-Cola's long-term goal is essentially to become accessible. They want their consumers, wherever they are in the world, to be able to access their product and consume their product. So they're one of the few companies that has set up operations places where others wouldn't. Sort of more dangerous parts of Africa, areas of the Middle East, Coca-Cola is still available to be purchased. No matter what, Coca-Cola is still available to be purchased. Historically, World War II, Coca-Cola was consumed by American soldiers who were fighting in the war and was a staple to soldiers and civilians alike in conflict. Their goal is to be accessible. So wherever you travel, wherever you are, you go into a hotel, you open the minibar fridge, and there is a Coca-Cola product. Their branding strategy centers around that idea because that's essentially, they make their money in volume, and being able to do that pushes volume out there and allows them to cement their place and become the premier beverage supplier in the world. Furthermore, in terms of branding strategy, they are really, really big on developing distributor and franchisor networks. So they will set up production plants in a vast number of nations. Almost all nations have at least one production plant for producing Coca-Cola-based products. And obviously they have a vast distributor network. Now, these production plants are often franchised, and so are these distributor networks. So someone may go purchase a franchise stake in Coca-Cola, set up a production plant, and distribute Coca-Cola. One noteworthy example of this would be in the former Soviet Union. So in Eastern Bloc nations, there was once the Soviet Union collapsed, there was a demand for Western products, and we saw that Coca-Cola was quick to set up franchise networks and distributor networks to get these products out to people. They were one of the first main Western brands into these regions, and they were quick to set up private franchise networks. So what will happen is Coca-Cola will monitor the supply of water, of quality water and sugar for their beverages, and then supply these franchisees with the syrups and other things necessary to produce the product. So they will ship out their trade secret ingredients. We'll have Coca-Cola produced in that home nation with the home nation's labeling and health standards, etc., but always keeping the brand's core identity intact. And then that way they're able to really stretch out their global reach and get their products to everyone. Now, what Coca-Cola aimed to do in the later parts of last century, and what they've really been able to accomplish recently, is becoming the global staple soft drink. So there's only one region in the world where Coca-Cola doesn't have a majority market share. That would be the Middle East. In the Middle East, for various reasons, where soft drinks were initially, when they started arriving in the Middle East, Pepsi had a larger share, and due to consumer tastes in the region, Pepsi still maintains a larger market share in the Saudi Arabia Gulf countries than Coca-Cola does. But short of that, Coca-Cola is the global staple soft drink. They've been able to do that again through accessibility, having their brand having brand awareness, marketing campaigns, etc., and just having a strong network of distributors that allow these products into everyday people's hands. To further grow from there, and a branding strategy that's becoming a major part of what Coca-Cola is known for and what makes them so successful overseas, is that they're priced quite well. So depending on the national level of income, etc., they manage their pricing quite well, in the sense that wherever they operate, more or less, they are a relatively affordable product for your everyday people who consume these products. This is part of what has made them a driving force in the beverage industry, is that not only are they accessible, but for the most part are reasonably priced and compete with the local soft drinks produced in the region, and are able to work with them, in the sense that very, very, very few times do local soft drinks outsell Coca-Cola. I believe in Scotland, Iron Brew for a brief period was outselling Coca-Cola, but even then, these days, Coca-Cola outsells smaller national, like sort of smaller, culturally understood beverages, and that demonstrates their ability to price the products well, put them in the hands of consumers, and have the marketing backing out there to become the global presence that they are. Now, onto brand management. Brand management wise, and how the brand is perceived. In the West, it is perceived as a daily product. So almost all of us would consume a Coca-Cola beverage every day of some description. 1.8 billion beverages are consumed daily of Coca-Cola products, so there's a lot of people out there consuming more than one a day. But for a lot of us, be it a Mount Franklin bottle of water, be it a Coca-Cola, a Fanta, or whatever, we consume these products every day, and it is perceived in the West as a daily product that people can consume whenever they choose to. In the developing world, it is seen as more of a luxury product, but still is understood that they're pushing to make it a daily product out there. So both the developing world and the sort of growing middle class in a lot of these newer developing nations, this product is seen as a luxury, but it is seen as a more and more accessible luxury. So Coca-Cola is really trying to manage their pricing in these regions and grow market share. And also in a lot of these nations, they're trying to push for consumers to understand their products. So a great example would be China, where though the people are enthusiastic now that it's sort of opened up to Western influence, they're really attempting now to create an environment where teas and various other things that the Chinese consumer is used to consuming, they're making that try to take the back foot to Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola is really trying to push in there and become the sort of central hub of beverage consumption in a developing nation like China, where they haven't really had a large market share in the past. Now, another way that they manage their brand overseas, Coca-Cola is very firm on their labeling. So they do label their products depending on the nation in the national language, etc., 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 but always maintain a constant logo and brand trademark design, the red backing with the white font, etc. This is critical as people moving from place to place find something familiar in Coca-Cola products and can easily identify Coca-Cola products. However, at the same time, having labeling and branding in the host nation's language allows the people living there to be able to identify with the product well, and obviously it meets various government guidelines and regulations. So this is a critical element of Coca-Cola's philosophy, is to be able to have this constant brand that people are aware of globally. Having it appear in film and television and Western media helps with that, as a lot of people viewing from outside see it as aspirational and as a piece of the West, a product of America that they can purchase in their own homes, be it in Kenya, Uganda, Chile, or Ukraine. Now, that's what is the brilliance behind Coca-Cola's marketing strategy and their brand management strategy, is that they retain the core and essence of what their brand is about, while at the same time being able to adapt to their host nation. Further upon that is something that Coca-Cola has found very, very critical, is the maintenance of their bottle shape. So it may sound trivial, but the original Coca-Cola product itself has a very distinct kind of hourglass bottle shape, and this is something that they've definitely maintained and trademarked all over the world, as that is, again, an identifying factor and a critical factor of what makes the brand what it is. So this is a really interesting study, something that was conducted by A. Brown in 2011, making Coca-Cola's brand Fizz. A very interesting journal article that touches on some of the marketing and branding strategies that make Coca-Cola the household name that they are now all over the world. Now, another way in which Coca-Cola manages their brand and marketing strategies quite successfully is differentiating themselves from the competition. So now the major competition obviously would be Pepsi-Cola Company. They differentiate themselves with vastly different marketing, branding, and design from Pepsi, whereas at the same time they try to differentiate themselves from local competitors, so local cola companies, etc., and also sort of generic brand cola companies. They really do this by being very firm on the company's philosophy, the branding, and the flavor, saying that the signature taste of Coca-Cola cannot be duplicated because the formula is a trade secret. This is one way in which that they're able to maintain this branding strategy. Obviously, growing from that into geographical boundaries, availability is a critical area. It's their ability to become available has pushed them past the geographical point that they would have considered difficult and made them accessible to a vast number of people. On from there, in terms of geographical boundaries, Coca-Cola Company, for the most part, has focused on urban and suburban areas where there's a larger concentration of people and a larger concentration of consumers. And oftentimes, though accessible in rural communities, it is far less common in rural communities, especially in these new developing nations that Coca-Cola is trying to establish a foothold in now. Their focus on urban and suburban areas means that it'll get to the most people, and in a cultural sense, it cements Coca-Cola's brand, its place in a pop culture reference. They have 900 bottling facilities globally, all over the world, be it from Eastern Europe to the Middle East to all over Europe. I believe they have 50 or 60 bottling plants in the United States alone. They are then able to have the exact number of production needed for that particular geographic region and are easily able to serve a particular geographical region without having to import and have to deal with various other logistics. So, to use the Eastern Bloc as another example, Georgia, Tbilisi, Georgia, has a Coca-Cola bottling plant that serves the Georgian nation, a tiny nation south of Russia. their ability to establish a bottling plant there and a production facility there means that they cut down on logistics and are able to have a constant flow of their products to consumers in that nation. Now, they have 5 separate operating regions. They obviously have North and South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. This means that they obviously have managers that oversee these particular regions and have more specific brand management and marketing strategies for these regions, and under them they would have national managers, etc., etc., etc. This allows Coca-Cola to tailor make their product for the region and for the people within that region, obviously considering religious necessities, be it halal or kosher, or cultural reasoning. So, for instance, Coca-Cola in Hong Kong is actually sold at a colder temperature, where it's recommended to be sold at a colder temperature than in North America due to the excessive heat and humidity in Hong Kong. So that is really how they're able to do that. 70% of Coca-Cola sales are generated overseas. That is a massive number and really is one of the reasons why they're really focusing on global development now. Overseas being outside of the United States, Coca-Cola first obviously being established in the United States. Having such a vast amount of their sales revenue coming from outside their home nation really cements Coca-Cola as a global brand. They are now no longer an American brand or a brand sort of in the Southern American states, but have now slowly begun to branch out through various historical elements, etc., and have become the global player that they are today. Godfrey Young et al. 2006, The Regional Monopoly and Parallel Trade of Coca-Cola, is an article that reflects on Coca-Cola's distribution networks in China and is a very interesting read and document when considering that China being obviously a new frontier for Coca-Cola in recent years and their development in China becoming an interesting talking point for Coca-Cola's broader brand management strategy. In conclusion, Coca-Cola has really grown and developed themselves as a brand by building these large networks of distributors and franchisees, being able to place their products in the hands of their consumers all over the world has been a fundamental element of what's made them successful. Their pricing strategy, their brand management strategy, having a constant design, logo, and marketing campaign has also been critical. These are elements that make Coca-Cola a massive brand, a brand that goes beyond geographic boundaries and market segments and has become a global household name and a consumer and somewhere a product that can be consumed all over the world by all kinds of people. On top of that, splitting operations, cutting up their workload through various regional sectors and national sectors, allowing them to logistically manage their company well. And again, it's that network of franchisees, distributors, and management that has allowed Coca-Cola to push their brand so far forward into these new markets and to cement themselves as the global beverage giant that they are today. Well, thank you for listening to my presentation. Greatly appreciate your time. Thank you.